You're listening to The Raw Reaction on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Yo, baby, yo, it's Monday night. You're here with Angry Tensai and my main man, Big Hick. Big Hick, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Dude, doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good. Got a little post pay-per-view Raw tonight. Somewhat entertaining, and the start of a new King of the Ring tournament.
Yes, a lot of activity tonight. It was a big night last night, and it was a big night tonight. I'll just ask you before we really get into everything. I was talking to Kev before we got on the air, actually before you got on the air, and there was some debate amongst the Angry Marks writers and podcast personalities about tonight's show. I actually really enjoyed tonight's Raw. Kev said he heard it was good. Rob the Many said he didn't like it. Kevin, how'd you feel about tonight's Raw?
I liked it because there was a lot of action. They're sort of put, as far as the writers are concerned, I feel like they're put in a tough spot because next pay-per-view is in 3 weeks, so you gotta sort of shit or get out the pot with putting together a card. So I think that I felt like they rushed into a lot of stuff, but you really had to.
Right.
But overall, I liked it. It was a lot of action, a lot of good matches. I don't like the whole format of New King of the Ring. I think it sort of cheapens it a little bit to have it start tonight, basically be announced last night, I guess, start tonight, and then finish tomorrow night. It sounds like they're just trying to fill in the blank here, and I think it cheapens it a little bit. I think that they need to have the finals at the next pay-per-view.
Yeah, I agree. People love King of the Ring. I don't really get what they're going for. I was kind of excited to hear it was coming back last night, but just to kind of throw it together the way they have, I thought was a little confusing. But I guess the idea of it is that there's some kind of storyline is going to come out of the end of this that probably will be part of the payback, which is why they're hot-shotting it. I actually thought last night when I saw the advertisement for the next pay-per-view, I said, oh boy, they're going to really be throwing shit together starting on Raw if the next pay-per-view literally is 3 weeks from now. It really limits the amount of things they can do between now and payback. But, I guess I used to think the reason they do so many pay-per-views is because they're trying to capitalize revenue. They're only going to sell so many tickets, so now it's almost like we get value, which I like when they put them this tight. And so you're getting value for your dollar, or maybe it's just a matter of spacing out the pay-per-views. But, I said to Kevin tonight that I thought was interesting. I said, if I wasn't a fan of Raw or WWE and somebody showed me the product for the first time tonight and I didn't see any of the promos, I just saw the matches, I would have thought Adrian Neville is their world champion. He is above and beyond better than anybody on the roster. How about that comment?
You know what? I like him a lot. He's getting hot-shotted up the card pretty quickly. I was winning last night, big time.
But why wouldn't he be? He's physically superior in the ring to everybody else. I mean, he did lose that match to Seth Rollins, who was the world champion, which is understandable. So it's not like they're doing the undefeated thing with him. I don't know. I mean,
well, even in that match, he looked strong.
So did Luke Harper, though.
There's not quite. He came there on the level above Dolph Ziggler based on that match.
You don't think Luke Harper? So we're talking about a King of the Ring first round match. It was Luke Harper versus Neville. You don't think Luke Harper looked good in that match?
Oh no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that based on his matches so far. I mean, put up a good fight against Rollins. Getting a win over Barrett last night. Yeah, I think they're hot-shotting him to the top. I don't think he's going to be wrestling for the strap soon, but he's going to be an upper mid-card wrestler, I think, for the time being.
He should be.
Yeah.
He's incredible work. I understand the appeal of Daniel Bryan. I like Daniel Bryan. I think this guy's better. I think he's better in the ring. I know we've heard about him as Pac for years on the independent scene, and I've heard how great he is, and I've watched him in NXT, but man, he's really picked up his game since coming on Raw. I mean, he's just awesome. I mean, and he doesn't blow any spots. I mean, he just makes things happen. I thought it was a great match. Luke Harper is proof that you don't have to look to win matches to look good. He lost to Ambrose last night in a a Chicago street fight, and he lost to Neville tonight. And I don't know, I thought Luke Harper looked great in both matches, and I loved his promo about what he would do if he was king of the ring. I thought it was really cool. I like everything I'm seeing. I'm watching Luke Harper. He's a throwback to like characters, and he's a solid mid-carder, a guy who's going to be around for a long time. And I was really excited about these two guys.
Exactly. And I like that and again, I stepped out for a minute during this match, but I like he's sort of cut down a little bit on some of the stupid risks that he takes out there. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the stupid risks he takes, but I mean, he's a big guy, and I feel like, especially seeing Daniel Bryan out now, like the roster is sort of learning, like at least the upper roster is sort of learning, hey, it's like, I don't need to do diving headbutts through the ropes every single match on Raw to get over.
Right. I agree with that. I mean, Neville takes a lot of chances, but, like the Red Arrow is his finisher. He's been using it for a long time. He's comfortable with that move. Generally.
It's off the ring, and you know what? If he doesn't hit it, it's not like Brock Lesnar trying to do a moonsault across 3/4 of the room where he's going to be eating canvas. I mean, he comes down wrong on it, he's not going to get as fucked up as that. Like tonight, like I actually really like the move in a Fandango Adam Rose match where Fandango.
Vic, you're cutting out there. So you were saying you really liked the move with Fandango and Adam Rose. What was it?
Fandango's out getting a breath on the outside talking to a couple rosebuds, and Fandango I think he jumped over the top rope and did like a flip or something, and he took out Adam Rose, and like I think one of the Rosebuds was sort of spotting him outside with a costume, and he caught him and like landed on his feet after he like dove at him like upside down and came out and landed on his feet. Really awesome spot. And
it was an awesome move. It was like a flipping bomb into a sticking landing. It was, I think we've seen with Fandango Johnny Curtis. We mentioned his Alabama Jam leg drop last week. That dude is a hell of an athlete. He is a very talented man. The roster's loaded right now, man. They have a lot of good guys. They really do.
Well, that's the thing, though. I think I like that they're starting to put. I mean, Fandango has been around for like a couple of years now, and they haven't really put him over as, I don't want to say a solid wrestler, but I feel like, I mean, they're sort of pushing him as a face, I guess. But I mean, they're putting him in. Even today, it was like a 2-minute match, but shit, it was entertaining. It makes me want to see Fandango again, even though he lost to Adam Rose.
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with working face and working heel. As a face, you can be death-defying and do some high-risk maneuvers. As a heel, you kind of have to heel your work. You know what I mean? So I think most of the heels aren't as impressive as workers by design as the faces, unless they're total dickish heels that know they're great. So they're really, you really don't have that right now. And even Seth Rollins, I think, has toned down his moveset, since going super mega heel. I don't know. I think that's a function of the face side of Fandango. I think he always had this in him, but, that's not necessarily what WWE was doing with them at the time. But Rose gets a win, and apparently Rosa Mendes is now with Adam Rose. Interesting.
Yeah. I'm sort of surprised about that, just because Adam Rose is sort of, I don't know. I almost felt like they were just completely giving up the character on him.
So too.
I thought he would be like back on NXT, or his Rosebuds were going to be joining Aces and Eights in about 91 days.
Well, what'd you think of the King of the Ring match of Stardust versus R-Truth?
You know what? I don't know what to think about R-Truth. I mean, I feel like he never really had a good blow off match with Cody Rhodes to get him over as sort of the super heel as opposed to the sort of wacko heel.
Who, Truth or Stardust?
Stardust.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. Well,
I feel unfinished business with his brother, and I mean, I know it's probably not the case because I think his brother's retiring, but I like that he's had even in losing, he's had good matches. When he challenged Cena for the championship a couple 3 weeks ago,
great match.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't think that makes me more of a fan of Cena just because Cena's put on good matches with these people.
Cena's been awesome over the last 9 months.
Yeah, no, I mean he really has, and I like the title on
Me too.
Hey, you know what? He said the belt was valued big time, and I feel like having him with it on and having him bring it to the forefront. I mean that's really helped. And I mean, I think it helps because, hey, you know what? Daniel Bryan's been out. He hasn't wrestled in a month with the IC strap. So
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying.
I mean, it helps spotlight a secondary title, and it's not really. I mean, if this was Wade Barrett holding that strap and Daniel Bryan was out, there'd be it'd be sort of a tool, and I don't know. I don't think Wade Barrett would lose it necessarily, but I just don't think it would be as much at the forefront, as much as focus, even though all he's really going to end up doing is last 3 or 4 months is having good matches on every single Raw and then Rusev at the pay-per-views.
Definitely. So, I mean, and Cena got a really good storyline here, and his attitude about working this storyline has made it even better. And now, you know what Cena's doing for me, Vic? He's proving to me why he's been the flag bearer and the champion for so long for WWE. This is exactly how you act when you don't have the title. And Randy Orton for a period of from 2012 to 2013 moped around the ring, gave us nothing, but finally turned it around in mid-2000, I'd say probably late 2013 to WrestleMania last year and really turned it around and showed how good he can be. You look at Miz in when the Ascension debuted, him moping around the ring and making their debut look terrible. John Cena could take that approach with the U.S. title, and instead he's propping the title up. He's propping Rusev up, and this open challenge thing is really cool, man. It's an exciting part of the show. And although tonight's was a joke with Heath Slater taking it, it's still built up the rematch with Rusev, who is going to have an I Quit match and basically putting it all on the line against Cena. But yeah, I'm with you, man. Cena's delivered for sure.
Two thoughts about that. Like you said, with giving Cena credit here, when Heath Slater started coming out, I said, "Oh, hey, you know what? I haven't seen him in a while," and said to myself, "You know what? That's cool. If he puts on a 10-minute, 15-minute match with John Cena right now and shows it, hey, I'm not going to mind seeing him on Raw for the next 2-3 weeks, putting on decent matches. Let him wrestle Fandango. Let him wrestle Adam Rose. Let him lower mid-card, but let him have a solid match. I mean, he's not going to be picking up even a secondary title, but shit, if you can give John Cena a 10, 12-minute match, then hey, I mean, who's to say you can't pick up a win over Luke Harper?"
Well, Heath Slater is a much, 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 much better worker than Adam Rose or Curtis Axel, in my opinion. Gimmick aside, Heath Slater can work. So, I mean, I agree with you. You can put him out there and he can wrestle a good match with all the jokes aside. So, they might have missed an opportunity here. But, I mean, how much can you use Cena? I mean, literally, Cena, he's special because he works every week. And people forget that. He wrestles a match on every week's show for 10 years. You know, I mean, and honestly, his work isn't that weak. I mean, he works pretty hard, man. I mean, I watch his stuff and I think he's gotten way better over the last year or so. I mean, I don't know. I actually want to see his segments now, and I'm interested. So that's cool, man. Good for Cena.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of the time it's just groan-inducing almost some of his stuff back before I always want for his title run. Or at least his run against Rusev.
Rusev's brought a lot to the table in this feud with Cena. I actually think, and I don't think it was a function of the fact that it's their third match. I think the gimmick match was a little stupid last night. So I don't think it was those guys. I think they did as much as they could do with the gimmick match that they had. So I really don't think it was their fault at all. But I really, really enjoyed their match at WrestleMania. That was an outstanding match. I liked the Rusev entrance at WrestleMania. Even their match at Fastlane was a really good match.
Yeah.
I think last night's gimmick kind of killed the match.
Yeah, you know what I didn't like last night was they say, oh, hey, the Russian chain match, you have to do 4 successive corners. And watching the match at real time as it happens, John Cena had the 3 corners, and then he basically had to stop and do an AA and then hit the next corner. I'm thinking to myself, hey, it's like, you know what? It's like that's like that should probably be like the restart of the count.
I thought the same thing because you didn't have continuity.
And then you hear the one good thing I'll give WWE credit for is I heard, I think it was Michael Cole saying something like, oh, his momentum, it's like his forward momentum continued or something like that with the AA in order to pick up the win. And I like that because you know what? It was sort of something where I'm like, hey, that's sort of shady. And they justified it. So whether or not it happened, I haven't watched the replay. I'm probably not going to watch the replay. It's sort of planted a seed in my mind. You know, I saw it as, hey, you know what? This was sort of a shitty finish and it shouldn't have been like that. Planted a seed in my mind. Hey, you know what? I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. It might have been based on how the rules are written for this match. It might have been legitimate.
Yeah, you know, I go back to the Starrcade match between Stan Hansen and Lex Luger for the U.S. title, coincidentally, which was a Texas Bull Rope match, the exact same rules. And what was more interesting in that match is it was almost like as long as you didn't get knocked down by the person who you were working, so essentially you always had somebody in play on a corner, 2 corner, or 3 corner, unless they literally knocked you down. So what was confusing about yesterday's match was continuity was just literally going from corner to corner to corner. Whereas when I watched the bull rope match years ago, which was a very good match, literally the only way to stop the guy from making the next turnbuckle is literally to take him down or hit another corner yourself, which I thought was a better way to do it. So essentially, if you have 2 guys in a tug of war or one guy working another guy over, he could get 1 corner, 2 corner, work you over for a minute and then hit corner 3. And I think that makes sense because you're in control. You know, I didn't really like the way they did that. So if anybody wants to watch it, Starrcade 90 on the WWE Network, you can watch Luger versus Hansen, which was a really good match. And I won't blow it for you. Hansen comes in the U.S. champion, so it's a great match. And it's a Texas Bull Rope match. And you'll learn on your Starrcade stats, prior to Starrcade, Lex Luger has never been in a Texas Bull Rope match. Thanks for sharing that with us, WCW. Like, we couldn't figure that out. But anyway, like John Cena's never been in a Russian chain match. Go figure. Anyway.
You have those matches at house shows all the time.
Yeah. We're in Russia. We were talking about Stardust and R-Truth, but surprisingly, R-Truth won that match. Did that surprise you? He caught him out of nowhere with a lie detector.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I think this is sort of a filler match, and I think they're sort of feeding whoever wins this match into Barrett for the to move forward. I think I can almost see Barrett and Neville as the final, and sort of do a rematch of the pay-per-view. And I really think, I mean, even if Neville loses, I think this could be sort of hot-shotted to the next pay-per-view as, like, hey, this is another match instead of being thrown together in the pre-show because, what's his name is out. Daniel Bryan's out. I mean, this is a legitimate match, top 3 or 4 match in the pay-per-view.
Yes, I agree. It'll definitely deliver if it is those two. R-Truth probably is not getting to the finals, but I have to say, R-Truth does have a tendency to win key matches every now and then. I mean, it's becoming not a surprise, because, you know, for every 4 or 5 matches he wrestles, he may lose 3 or 4, but he tends to win at one big match every now and then, if you've noticed. So I like that surprise aspect that R-Truth can beat you on any given day. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, he's almost, he's like a solid mid-carder who can, like, upset John Cena. I don't think he will, but, I mean, he could put on a 10-15 minute match with John Cena and have us believe for a good part, hey, you know what, this is his night to pick up a win, because he will occasionally pick it up.
I agree. Also, in the tournament, you mentioned Wade Barrett advanced. Wade Barrett beat Dolph Ziggler, and what was it? I guess it was starting off as a good match, but Sheamus interfered to get back Ziggler from last night. Ziggler won their match last night. I won't even refer.
He didn't really get him back. I mean, he had Ziggler last night. He cheap low blowed Ziggler and then bro kicked him and then made him kiss ass. So it wasn't really hey, this is revenge on Dolph Ziggler. It's more like,
you know
hey,
what, man? I don't even want to give credence to that wrestle crap. The bottom line is Ziggler won the match. Period.
yeah, exactly. Well, that's the problem though, is because from the looks of things, Ziggler's going to get caught up in a feud with Sheamus, and that's not a terrible thing. But I feel like they need to. I feel like they need to raise the stakes with this. Like say, hey,
No,
you know what?
It's crap.
Sheamus
It's all crap. It's all crap. It's the win trading bullshit. It's the stuff that really bothers me about WWE. So so Sheamus loses to Ziggler, and then Ziggler is about to beat Barrett, who lost to Adrian Neville last night. Barrett's got to get his win back, so he wins with a bullhammer because Sheamus interferes. Dean Ambrose won last night, and Dean Ambrose has to lose tonight because Dolph Ziggler's got to get his interference back against Sheamus in their King of the Ring match. So basically, Dean Ambrose gets completely screwed. He's eliminated from the King of the Ring because Dolph Ziggler couldn't keep his cool. And then Barrett wins because Sheamus, for some reason, wants to interfere and cause Ziggler the match. If anything, if I was Sheamus, I'd want Ziggler to win King of the Ring and then beat him up a minute after he wins it because I'm feuding with him. I don't get the logic, and this is the main reason why WWE doesn't have mainstream fans. No one dominates, and that's what made Brock Lesnar special over the last whatever. Because you have to have dominant champions. Think about Vladimir Klitschko, right? He hasn't lost a match in like a decade. Look at John Jones. Look at Anderson Silva before he lost his match in UFC. People love dominance. And Ronda Rousey, you cannot have this trading win stuff. You cannot have your WWE champion in a non-title match constantly losing non-title matches. I just don't get the booking. Like,
yeah, I sort of hate it because you know what, Rollins should be protected. I mean, I don't care if he has to wrestle once between the pay-per-views or sort of go to a Lesnar schedule. I think, I mean, he needs to maybe have like one match between the pay-per-views, and you know what, have Kane for that match, have Kane do a complete face turn and face off with him. That's fine. Have Seth Rollins win somehow, but I'd rather see that than have Kane and versus Orton and Roman Reigns, and then picking up a win over Rollins and what's his name, Rollins and Kane.
I don't necessarily care in a tag team match because it's the bullshit schmoz anyway, but in general, think back to the Attitude Era or even the 90s and 80s. Your top guys just don't lose on Raw, right? Or Nitro. Hulk Hogan's not losing on Nitro, right?
Oh, no.
Stargate. Sting is not going to lose on Nitro. Kevin Nash is not going to lose on Nitro. Goldberg's not going to lose on Nitro. Stone Cold, The Rock, they're generally not going to lose on Raw. And that's really the way you should book. There has to be a mid-card and there has to be main eventers. And that blurred line over the last couple years, I just don't understand it. I mean, Seth Rollins lost to Heath Slater about 6 months ago on a Raw. And you're booking him to be your champion. You know, I don't know. I just, I don't like the booking. I really don't. Speaking of the booking that I don't like, Tyson Kidd loses tonight to Big E thanks to interference by Xavier Woods, but that's not what I care about. I care about the fact of what happened last night. If you didn't watch Extreme Rules, you're probably thinking, what in the world are the New Day doing with the tag team titles? My God, Vic. Why are the New Days the tag team champions?
I don't know, man. And you know what? This one drives me crazy. I said it last week, and you guys sort of fought me back off the cliff with this. I'm giving up the tag team division. I thought the Lucha Dragons should have been in that match. I thought they should have beaten New Day. Hey, you know what? You're getting them over. I get it. You're getting them over as a heel go away tag team out there. I get that. But giving them a title, it just doesn't work for me.
It doesn't work for me either. And I actually thought to myself, why would WWE be taking, and Cesaro and Kidd were ridiculously over last night. People were so excited to cheer for him. And I thought to myself, and Cesaro looked strong. I mean, he looked like $1 million out there. He's very good in the face roll. And when I watched the match last night, I thought, if New Day wins this match, what would be the value in that happening? And I thought about the historical presence of it. Maybe WWE wants to build up Tyson Kidd and Cesaro as champions, so they have to have multiple title reigns. But if that was the case, they would have just won the title back tonight. So that didn't happen.
Yeah, and you know what? I get it. Let them have the title for a couple weeks or a couple months until next pay-per-view. But I hate it because I don't think New Day should be on a pay-per-view.
Well, here's what's interesting. I think their characters are terrible. But from a work standpoint, that tag team match was fantastic last night. It was arguably one of the better matches of the night. But it's still them. And their gimmick is just terrible. But I did enjoy the match itself. Personally. It was a very good match.
You know, the match was good. And I almost feel like WWE, they needed, I almost feel like their writers before the match were like, hey, you know what? We got to make sure that we get Cesaro and Kidd over his faces and New Day over his heels.
They did that.
And you know what? I think they succeeded with that with Tyson Kidd and Cesaro. I mean, like you said, Cesaro was freaking phenomenal out there. But I don't know how much it really did, how much good it did for the New Day was.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I mean, even with titles. I mean, it's like, okay, now they're champs.
I like titles because it gives credibility to the division. But the problem is, I just feel like over the next month, you're gonna have them, the Lucha Dragons, and the Cesaro as the three teams that really fight over.
Well, I think WWE did something very safe, and I'll tell you, they didn't trust the Lucha Dragons, in my opinion, on the pay-per-view to put them in this spot. And I do really think that's what it is, to be honest with you. I think they're a little gun shy with the NXT tag teams, given the Ascension stuff. But what I do find interesting is I recall the Matadors New Day Kid Cesaro pre-show match, which the Usos were also part of, but were quickly eliminated because of an injury. I recall that being an incredible tag team match. And a lot of people probably didn't see it because it was on the pre-show and it was on early. And it was a really, really, really good match. And I think WWE was probably thinking, okay, we're not going to have a lot of our big stars kind of on Extreme Rules like we did on WrestleMania. So there's that hangover of not having Triple H and Sting and all those guys and Undertaker. So I think they just said, you know what? We know the New Day versus Kid and Cesaro will entertain like it did at WrestleMania. And a lot of people didn't really see that match. So I kind of understand the logic if you're looking for a good work match, and that's what you got. So kudos to the match itself. I just don't like the outcome. I don't see the game personally, but that's what'd you think about Ryback and Bray Wyatt? So Ryback had a match again with Bo Dallas tonight. Last night was more of a confrontation. Ryback runs through Bo Dallas, who's a little bit more competitive tonight. But apparently what Bray Wyatt's been talking about all these weeks was Ryback, and Bray Wyatt really just decimated him, came out of nowhere, popped up on Ryback, hits the Sister Abigail, and that's that. And he said this is just the start of torturing the transparent soul of Ryback. I don't know where this is all going and why, but Bray Wyatt really has a hard-on for Ryback. What do you make of all that?
Yeah, you know what? I sort of I like what they're doing with Ryback, trying to make him sort of, they're trying to build him up. And I feel like it's tough on a worker when they're not on the pay-per-view. So last night, he came out, beat the shit out of Bo Dallas, whatever. Same thing tonight. Beat the shit out of Bo Dallas in about 2 minutes. That's fine. That's great. But now they're putting him into a meaningful feud. And I didn't understand why Wyatt wasn't wrestling at the last pay-per-view.
Right, I know. I was surprised by that myself. I think it's because of the ankle injury he sustained at WrestleMania.
Okay.
But it was like a deep sprain. It wasn't like anything permanent. I think they just felt like they had a good card, so they didn't really throw Bray Wyatt in there. You know, you're kind of in a tough spot because you have so many emerging stars and only one title now, which is one world title, which is fine. You really have to build out a true mid card and a true main event because the lines are very blurred on who the main eventers are and who the mid-carders are. And I think like a Cesaro, like a Bray Wyatt or an Ambrose or all these guys are kind of in that middle zone. I can tell you I'm sure the main eventers are Orton and Cena. I know that they're main eventers. But aside from Orton and Cena, at any given night, a guy like Dolph Ziggler could go from headlining to lower mid card. So, that's kind of where Bray Wyatt falls. I do like him versus Ryback. I think they're both perceived as upper mid card. So, it should be a solid feud. I don't see Bray Wyatt losing the feud, but, I'm curious to what Bray Wyatt's problem is with Ryback. Maybe it's, his outer appearance and, he's what the WWE machine wants. I don't know. I mean, what do you think the problem is going to be?
I don't know. What do you think? Do you think this match is going to happen at Payback?
Definitely. Okay. I think Ryback's going to go crazy on SmackDown. I think you're going to see a more aggressive Ryback who's going to be really pissed off. I think Ryback's going to handle this very negatively. And I think one of the things we're going to see, kind of like what we saw in the CM Punk feud, Ryback's aggressive nature and his lack of patience, I think is going to cost him the feud and the whole interaction with Bray Wyatt. Because Bray Wyatt will pick his spot. I mean, we learned that with his feud with The Undertaker. I mean, he had no problem carrying on a great feud for 1 month without someone to talk back to him. That is some of the best work out there, that Bray Wyatt made me interested in his match with The Undertaker, not just because Undertaker was in it, but because I wanted to see him fight The Undertaker in literally weeks of engaging promos. I mean, it was Bray Wyatt's promos aren't for everybody. I kind of like the theatrics, and I love all the shit that he does. I think there's a group of people that aren't really entertained about it. I like it. The more supernatural and crazy you get, the more interested I am in your character, so it's appealing to me, personally. But, speaking of character appeal, what did you think of the whole Damien Sandow Axel Mania segment? Damien Sandow came out and thanked us for getting him over. Sandow kind of looks really weird without a character now, doesn't he?
I don't know.
You didn't see him?
What's that?
Did you see him?
No, I'm sorry. You cut out for a second there. Say that one more time. The last part.
I was talking about Sandow's character. It seems weird watching him without a character, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, what was he? Who did he wrestle? I missed the match.
No, he didn't really wrestle. He just came out. He thanked us, the fans, because without us, even with something stupid like Mizdow, he wouldn't have been able to get over. And he lost a lot of respect from the guys in the back with doing the Mizdow character, but, he realized it brought the fans closer to him, which, he essentially wanted. And, regardless of how corny the gimmick was, it brought us to Sandow, and he was thankful for that. Axel came out, and it was kind of stupid. Axel basically came out and said, what a dumbass you are. Like, you're pretending to be another character instead of being yourself. And it's meanwhile he's trying to be Hulk Hogan. And then literally Sandow, in a weird way, was like kind of mocking, like slowly mocking the Hogan gimmick. Like, he repeated everything Axel said, and it was a really odd segment. And the crowd really liked it for some reason or another. And then Sandow beat up Axel, but literally Sandow has like no character now. He's just a guy in a black shirt with new music.
Yeah,
weird.
Heart-to-heart conversations with fans, which is just going to go over like a fucking lead balloon.
Yeah, it actually wasn't that. I actually thought it was very bad, but it did go over with the crowd, which was really weird. And the segment I thought was terrible, but the crowd loved it. It was odd. It was a real odd segment. And
they thought he was going to be shadowing the Miz or something.
Yeah, it was weird. It was really weird. But I don't know. Kev, did you see that thing? Kev, you on the air tonight, bud? I don't think so. I wish he was, because I would love to get his take too, because that was a real weird segment. But anyway, I don't know. That was that. But the main segment tonight was the Kane, Rollins, Reigns, Orton mess, which the show started, and I mean, we could really abbreviate this because there really not much happened. Rollins came out, and Orton basically called bullshit. And, he felt like he got screwed by Kane. Kane basically told Rollins that, essentially, he's got an issue with him, but he helped him. He did what was best for business. Roman Reigns came out and said he wanted a title shot as well. Basically, it just led to a big tag team match between Reigns, Orton, Rollins, and Kane. Kane and Rollins said they'll put their differences aside to try and beat these two guys tonight. Meanwhile, backstage, Kane, after all that happened, said, by the way, I'm putting to vote a championship title match on WWE.com at the pay-per-view. It could either be you versus Reigns or you versus Orton. Rollins went crazy and said, I thought we were going to be on the same page. This is the crap you do. I'm going to tell Triple H. And then Kane goes, all right, well, because of that, you've caused me to change my opinion. Not only will I put you up against Reigns, put you up against Rollins as a vote, or Orton as a vote, I'll also put up a triple threat match, which is Orton, Reigns, and Rollins. And of course the fans picked the triple threat match. Further dissension between Kane, which leads us to the main event. It was a good work match for what it was. I mean, these are guys that not work together every night. I thought everybody looked pretty good. I thought Reigns had a great match with Big Show last night, and he had a good match today, so he looked good. Orton wound up winning the match with an RKO on Rollins because Kane basically inadvertently got knocked down by Rollins. Kane flips out, takes out Rollins. Orton hits the RKO. Faces win, everybody goes home happy. What's your take on all of that?
I feel like they're just trying to make Rollins a very vulnerable champion.
Why?
I don't know. I get the fact, hey, chicken shit champion, and everybody hates you, but I think you need to have some legitimate wins as the champion.
Absolutely.
And I think he wins. I think he wins next pay-per-view somehow, but I think it's some bullshit finish where either he picks up like the pin after like an RKO by Orton or something where it's sort of a fluke. Sort of like the way he won the match where, hey, you know what? He came in his opportunity and he came and took advantage of it, which I'm a big fan of.
Yeah, and I don't like how Rollins like almost doesn't believe that he's gonna beat Reigns or Orton together either. Like he lacks such confidence as a champion. I think that's really odd, you know. A champion's supposed to believe they can do anything. You know, like I kinda like that about you know like Rusev. Rusev just lost to Cena twice in a row, and he's confident he's gonna beat Cena. Like, and that's what you're supposed to think. It reminds me of the first time I ever drank like hard alcohol, and that was at your house, Big Dick. And I recall your dad had like a bottle of Absolute, and I remember being a young boy with you and another friend of ours, and I remember seeing the bottle of vodka and saying, guys, I'm gonna tell you something. You see that bottle of vodka? This is mind over matter. There is no way that liquid in there could screw me up to the point where I'll change. I'll be the same. There's nothing that's going to change the way I do things. If we just sit here and not go anywhere, and we just sit at this table and drink this, I can drink this and nothing's going to happen. Well, Big Dick, I learned my lesson.
Yes, but I feel like it's almost like Rollins is getting underestimated, and it's booking's fault. It's not necessarily his fault.
It's stupid because he was afraid of no one before he won Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know.
He took the chair to the Shield. He was so confident in his abilities. He turned on the Shield.
That's a good stone. But the problem is, I don't like that. I love how over he was. Is everybody hates him. I don't like there's really not been a resolution to him and Reigns one-on-one or him and Ambrose one-on-one. Like, there was never a resolution to that. It was like a match, and it was like some bullshit finish or something where they should have had another match, and they didn't end up having it.
I agree. I especially Reigns Rollins. I mean, I guess Rollins essentially really won the feud, but all the matches were bullshit. But they were some of the best matches of the year. You know, I would argue that, you know, although in the storyline, Kane's the one that made Rollins the champion, I'd argue that Ambrose and that feud with Ambrose is why Rollins is so over and why he's so, you know, Ambrose almost sacrificed himself to put over Rollins. But to your point, you know, there really has not been a decisive ending. And I think that's what makes Reigns and Rollins in a way very intriguing on TV. Even though they did feud, this is like the real feud now that the belt's involved. So, you know, if I like Orton in the main event, but I think we know he's kind of a tool to build Rollins up as a champion. But I don't really like the fact that Orton really went over him in a big way at WrestleMania. And to your point, his match last night, I mean, that was a tainted victory. He's got to beat Orton, I think. And then he's got to I think you can then put him in the feuds with Ambrose and Reigns for real. And that'll draw. That'll bring in the casual fan, I guess, I think.
No, I agree completely. I mean, I almost feel like he needs to not necessarily dumb it down. a level, but I feel like Orton needs to take he needs to have an Inferno match with Kane or something, and then get you know what, he wins that, he's back in the title picture. I feel like they're just too quick to either throw him or involve him in a title picture when I don't know if he needs more to build up, but I don't like the way he's been involved. I almost feel like, you know what, this match is it's not going to be Orton going over. I don't think this match. I mean, I think probably about 75% chance that Rollins wins and 25% that Roman Reigns wins.
Reigns could win. He definitely could.
I mean, I think 25% is probably too high for
I think Reigns does win, though. I think Rollins is going to get it back very quickly. I do. I really do.
I think it's a bullshit finish. Where, hey, you know what? Guess who? There's some interference, J&J interfered. I thought they were going to have some bullshit finish where, what's his name? Where, last night, I thought it was going to be some bullshit finish. And it sort of was a bullshit finish. But I thought it was going to be bullshit finish where, I didn't know that there was no disqualification inside the cage. And again, I like that WWE announcers actually made that point when Kane got into the cage, because my thinking was hey, shit, you know what? He's pissed off at both of them, and he's gonna lose his cool and choke slam Seth Rollins, and that's gonna be the end of the pay-per-view.
Oh, that would have sucked.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like I thought that was gonna be the reason, and then you're gonna have Orton versus Kane, mostly because, hey, not necessarily because they're both great faces, but because they're they have a reason to hate each other. And obviously it's more of a...
Well, Orton doesn't really seem like he hates Kane, which is kind of odd given how much Kane has screwed him over. Even tonight, there was still some reasoning there, and I'm kind of Orton really... I mean, I understand Orton's character as he plays mind games with people, but Kane is kind of going to do what Kane wants to do unless someone who's paying his check tells him he has to do something. So you really can't manipulate or reason with Kane, because Kane's going to do what Kane wants to do. And some would say he's not by being part of the Authority, but I'd argue he is because he wants to get paid. So that's why, it was even defiant in the way Rollins won the match. Although Rollins won the match, Kane still beat his ass in the match. So, Kane's going to do what Kane wants to do. So, I guess for Rollins and Reigns, like how Reigns brought up, he took out the Big Show last night. The best thing these guys can do is take out, Reigns, or take out Kane and Show. They have been pretty devastating over the last couple months. And what would be funny if the faces kind of contracted Mark Henry to be like the face version of Show and Kane. And who better than the guy who put both of those guys in the Hall of Pain, right? That would be kind of a cool thing, that if Orton or one of the faces used Mark Henry, not in matches, but as a tool to soften the heels and really do their bidding. That's, to me, you need an enforcer, right? Why can't you have a face have an enforcer too? So, maybe there's a storyline there for Mark Henry, but I do like the role that Kane and Big Show have played, and it really manifested itself in the Royal Rumble, how dominant they can be. And then Big Show winning the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, and Kane really looking dominant. They've looked as good as you can make them look after all the years of damage that have been done. Honestly, I watched the show Reigns match last night, and I couldn't believe that Roman Reigns won after that table spot where he went through the two tables. That was much worse than anything Reigns did to Big Show. That should have ended the match. Did you see that spot?
Yeah, it was pretty freaking ridiculous, man.
I couldn't believe he got up. I'm like, really? I'm like, so that spot's not going to end the match, but the spear through a table with the table that we know is light because we've seen people throw them before on top of Big Show. It was really weird.
You know what?
Good. Didn't like
Vegas odds going into the pay-per-view. I would have loved to see the Vegas odds of this Spanish announce table getting destroyed.
Oh, on Extreme Rules.
Yeah, exactly. That's begging. It's okay, we have a Spanish announce table because it's going to get destroyed at some point.
Right. Of all the odds that I saw, do you know the match that had the most likely odds was Orton losing to Rollins. Orton was a heavy underdog in that match versus versus him. And Ambrose was actually really big over Harper as well. But what I thought was interesting was the line between Reigns and Show was actually pretty close. Like, it was like minus 300 for Show, which was really surprising to me because I thought Show would be a huge underdog, but I guess he's not, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed that match a lot last night. I felt like, you know what, I groaned when Big Show and, what's his name, Reigns got that match. I'm like, shit, you know what, we just had this pay-per-view. That match, actually, I mean, it was a 20, 25-minute match, which you don't get at a show very often.
No.
I think that match, in effect, put Reigns over with a good segment of the crowd.
Yep.
Who he wasn't over with before. And I think that was a success. Whether Big Show wins or he wins.
Show did a good job last night, I agree.
I think that was a big success. He really connected with the crowd. And he's not 100% over, but I think he's like 75% right now, which was a lot better than about 40% a couple weeks back.
I agree with you 100%. I definitely bought Reigns as a top guy last night. And, to your point, when Show wants to work, he can do a nice job, and he did a nice job against Daniel Bryan about 2 months back too. I mean, Show can put on good matches every now and then, and especially the gimmick matches where he can throw people into things and break things. It really looks that much more brutal, and I was pleasantly surprised by Big Show last night. So if he's gonna do shit like that, keep him on. It was, I think the pay-per-view was great last night, given how, I don't want to say the card was weak, but the matches on paper didn't look that great. And I thought the pay-per-view was really, really good given that. And I thought tonight's Raw was great as well. I mean, I'm interested to see what's going to happen at Royal Rumble. I think we just lost Vic for a second, or the Royal Rumble, King of the Ring last night, or tomorrow night. We're waiting to get Vic back on. I'm just going to say, I think tomorrow night, what we're going to see is I think we're going to see Adrian Neville upset Sheamus. I really do. I think Ziggler is going to be part of that. Vic, you're back. Very good. I was just saying, I thought Extreme Rules was very good. I thought Raw was very good. And King of the Ring tomorrow night, I was just making some predictions. I think Neville's going to go over with some help from Dolph Ziggler on Sheamus. I think Wade Barrett's going to run through R-Truth. And then I think Neville is going to shock the world and become King of the Ring, beating Wade Barrett clean for the second time in a 3-night span. Any predictions from you for tomorrow night?
I'm going with the same main event. I think Barrett wins it. I think it's a great match, though. I mean, I could see it being, again, I don't know how long main event is. I could see it being a 20, 25-minute match if they give him time and be very entertaining. But I feel like Barrett, since he looks like he's in better shape now. Like, he was never...
Yeah, man.
He was never really, jacked and really cut up. Now he has a freaking six-pack, and he's, really freaking jacked.
I'd like to see him as part of the Authority.
That'd be interesting. I feel like he needs some sort of a, not necessarily an angle. I think somebody like Paul Heyman would be great for him.
He was great as the leader of the Nexus. I mean, he can carry a promo. He's very believable on the mic. I mean, I don't know. The Bad News Barrett thing's cool. It's funny. But I think he can offer a lot more than that. I don't think it's bad. I think it's kept busy.
I don't think you're a main event player with that gimmick.
Wade Barrett 2 years ago was a main eventer, period. I don't care what anyone says. He was a legitimate main eventer during the Nexus run. Undoubtedly a main eventer.
Yeah, it seems like it was longer than that.
3 years ago, whenever it was, he was a main eventer at that point. No doubt about it. And now he's just washed away in the mid-card.
No, I don't know. I think he got hot-shotted to the top there before he was ready, and they recognized it and brought him back down. I mean, he's had a couple injuries and stuff, so it doesn't help. But I think now, he's sort of retracing his highs with, being over. And I think, if he can get, some cool, I don't even know, just, some more good matches, good storylines, I think he can be back up there as a contender.
Hey, man, Royal Rumble, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago? 3 years ago when CM Punk came out with the new Nexus to start off, drew number 1 to start the Royal Rumble, and he came out with the whole Nexus. You had 4 or 5 of those guys out there. It was 5 of those guys out there to start the show, and it's like, okay, well, only one guy drew number 1, CM Punk. and then immediately the core came out, which was Gabriel, Slater, and Ezekiel Jackson with Barrett, and it was like, oh my god, these guys are gonna rumble, and all of a sudden guys are flying over the top rope, you have a brawl in your hands. I mean, that was awesome TV, and I think back to that, and it's like, oh my god, how far has Wade Barrett fallen? But it goes back to the trade wins thing. You know, you look at Barrett had his big moment. You look at Miz had his big moment at WrestleMania 27. You look at Ziggler had his big moment at Survivor Series, and it doesn't mean anything. These guys just go back down the mid-card. It's bizarre.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I almost feel the same way to a little bit lesser extent with Ambrose. I mean, he was back in like August, September. He was the freaking biggest draw they had. He got like all sorts of cool angles. He was on TV a couple times a night. And now he's wrestling throwaway matches in the King of the Ring tournament. And that's it.
It's weird. I hope they can do something with him. I think the problem you face with Wade Barrett and Miz is there's been so much damage done to their personas. They can never, maybe Barrett's fine, but you know, like I said, he'd be a good enforcer, that type for the authority, but I don't know if these guys could ever get back to that level, you know, and nor should they, maybe not, because you can't have everybody be a main eventer, but Ambrose is in very dangerous territory. I agree with you, Beck. I think he's in very, very dangerous territory of being just that good hand that will wrestle big matches for you but never win. Kind of like a Scott Hall type.
He's like an R-Truth.
No, I wouldn't put him there. I mean, R-Truth's a good lower mid-carder, but I'm trying to think of a guy in WCW who kind of played that role, kind of like a Buff Bagwell. You know, that's kind of where, not that I would ever say, Ambrose is a worker like Buff Bagwell. I'm just saying the spot on the card is kind of where Ambrose is. Bagwell at one point was super over with the fans, and they wanted to see him break through the next level, and he just never did, and never really won the big matches. And I think that's kind of where Ambrose is.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I hate it because he was freaking over like no other back in the fall.
Right?
He was
man.
Loved him, and he was like a main event player pretty much. I mean, he had his.
I picked him to win the Royal Rumble.
He was in the main event. With Rollins in the steel cage.
I actually thought I just thought that a lot of this jobbing was to basically throw us off, and I was positive he was going to win the Royal Rumble, and I was like, wow, this is going to be really cool. Rollins versus and it started not Rollins, it started looking that way though. Like towards the end of the Royal Rumble, like Ambrose was still in there, and I'm thinking Reigns is going to get booed out of here. It's too obvious that Reigns is going to win. And when it was down to the final four, I'm like, all right, Ambrose is going to take on Brock. That's going to be fucking crazy. That's going to be a crazy match. But I don't know, man. All I know is 2 years ago after WrestleMania, the CM Punk Undertaker match on SmackDown, Undertaker fought Ambrose. And I thought that was really cool that they trusted Ambrose in that spot.
Yeah, I mean, that was his rookie years.
And he was the leader of the Shield. He was, without a doubt, the leader of the Shield. Without a doubt.
And I mean, that's the thing. I think that, again, I don't know what goes on backstage. I think he's probably the most respected out of everybody because he still gets the big spots. He had he had an interview with Roddy Piper back a little while. I think they trust him more than anybody else. But at the same time, I don't know if it's himself holding it back. I feel like they're. I mean, you know what? I feel like the reason they're keeping him back isn't necessarily because 100% just saying, hey, WWE booking. I mean, I can almost see him saying, hey, let these guys get over, or hey, you know what, let Roman Reigns have his shot at this, get this push into the title or into the main event, because everybody's saying, hey, you know what, it's too soon, and Reigns' main event status. I don't know how much longer it lasts after this.
I think Reigns' big problem is the mic. I mean, he's okay on the mic. I don't even want to say he's below average, but he's not as bad as people make him out to be, but he's not going to be able to carry a 15-minute segment on Raw. And honestly, Seth Rollins isn't that great on the mic. He's okay. He's good. He's okay to good. But he's not that intriguing. Ambrose is excellent on the mic. Excellent on the mic. So to me, if they take a little less craziness off Ambrose, he can deliver in a big way. I don't want to kill Rollins here. I don't think his mic works terrible. I mean, tonight's a great example. It was a big spot tonight. He's not there from a mic perspective, in my opinion. And I'm going to go as far as to say I think Noble and Mercury have helped him out a ton. I think that them playing off Rollins has made Rollins really interesting and added depth to his character. So J&J Security, really, which started out as a joke, they've been really, I think, effective. So it's really added to Rollins' character. So who knows what's going to happen, but that's where we are.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And like you said, I mean, there's a reason that he's out there with the Authority.
Right.
He can't put on a 10, 15-minute talking segment.
Great point. That's what they're there for. But, that's kind of the gimmick that Kane alluded to, that he's just a created working champion by the Authority. And I think at some point, Seth Rollins' character is going to get very offended and upset that the Authority doesn't really treat him like he's a real champion, but he's someone they just created. And that's where we go back to the movie Rockstar, and I talk about, Bobby, who's the lead singer or whatever, what Mark Wahlberg becomes a singer, and he's not allowed to write the songs because the original guys from Steel Dragon always write the songs. And that's kind of where I think this is going, where Rollins is never going to be treated as an equal member, but he's the champion, which is similar to being the lead singer. So we'll see. It should be interesting. Kevin, anything you want to plug tonight?
Besides your asshole.
No, oh man. Anyway. Don't go there.
That's rude, man. That's rude. Tomorrow.
That's why you have the edit button.
Yes.
Enough.
Tomorrow night on the Undisputed Wrestling Show, unless things change, we have lined up in our first hour the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase.
Are you serious?
Very serious.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And in the second hour, we have Ohio Valley Wrestling heavyweight champion Muhammad Ali Vaez.
Interesting.
Not the $1 Million Man?
No.
Not in hour 2, no. Hour 1.
You should have Virgil in hour 2. Really, it's going to be awesome. That should be an interesting interview.
It'll be good. It'll be good.
If you can.
The interview.
What's that?
Who's doing the interview?
Zane.
We'll have Zane Paisley and the Morning Star William Huckabee and the Prophet Rick Craig.
I'd like you to ask DiBiase why Warrior picked him and only him out during WrestleMania, the Hall of Fame ceremony. I'd be interested in his thoughts. Why DiBiase's the one grudge you couldn't let go of versus everybody else?
That'll be a good question.
Yeah, I guess Warrior felt that DiBiase really gave him and Sting a hard time when they were coming up, but I'd be interested to see what DiBiase's thoughts were on that. But I'm sure DiBiase was trying to make these guys tougher, and I'm sure from what we've heard, Warrior was not the easiest to work with. So who knows? I'm sure there's an interesting rebuttal, and I'm sure Ted DiBiase would be very respectful because he is. Yes. It'd be interesting to get his side on that, but we'll see. Yeah. Other than that, what else we got brewing on the network?
Well, coming on Thursday night AMP this week, we are going to have an interview with the Masshole, Mike McCarthy, out of New England Championship Wrestling. This coming weekend, they are getting ready to have their annual Iron 8 tournament, and he's one of the participants, so he's going to talk about the tournament and a little bit about his career. So.
And isn't he the co-host of Impact Implosion?
No, that would be Seth Draken and Mike Poulin.
Oh, wrong Mike.
Angry Tensai, I think we need to get involved with the independent, like the Northeastern Connecticut Independent Wrestling Federation.
You just want to deal with the legends.
Yeah, we literally need to be in those shows. We could be like the commissioners or like, I don't know, the future owners or pull some BS thing.
Yeah, we might have money, but what do we know about planning?
Yeah, good point. I mean, we'd probably be shit out of luck.
If there was only a website where we could find independent wrestlers and, learn about them that were promoting themselves. If there's only a place that has information like that. But there's not. There is not a place that has information like that. Because if it did, we would be talking about it right now. But there isn't a place like that, so forget about it. What else we got on the agenda, Cats?
Craigslist.
Craigslist. If you want to talk about wrestling and anything wrestling, go to Craigslist.
super normal and legitimate people there.
Oh yeah. Anything else, Kev?
Well, just our usual shows throughout the week. We have Glove Up or Shut Up Wednesday nights with Stevie J and Peter H. We'll have SmackDown Rundown and Impact Implosion later this week as well. We'll have Over the Top Radio with Ann in San Antonio on Friday nights.
Excellent. And over the top radio is always an over the top experience. Other than that, I would just say, for what it's worth, Kev, I want to say sorry to our fans and our listeners that listened last week. I would say it was absolutely one of our most atrocious and worst shows, mainly because of the content we had to deal with. But I hope we lived up to standards tonight. We were excited about tonight's show. We were excited about the pay-per-view. And hey, when we're excited about the product, it makes the show better, right? So kudos to the WWE tonight and the night before for good programming. And maybe they missed on a few things, but I feel like they hit on more things than they missed on. Anything you want to add there, Vic?
Nah, you know what? I like it, and you know what else I like? And this is, I think this is a result of WrestleMania. There weren't a lot of, like, hey, you know what? Everybody needs to be on the pay-per-view matches after WrestleMania. And I like that, because I felt like there'd be too many, like, oh, we're gonna have a 3-on-3 match at this pay-per-view with just 3 guys who were faces, 3 guys who were heels, and they all dislike each other. And I hate that. I'd much rather have singles matches, and we got a lot of them at this pay-per-view.
Totally. I thought it delivered, and we probably would have got even more if Daniel Bryan was okay, because they probably would have flip-flopped New Day and Cesaro and Kidd with Bryan and Barrett, which was the plan originally. So
they were on the pre-show, and I can understand why they did that with Neville. But I mean, still, you know what? If they left Barrett and Neville in there, I'm not talking about the difference. I'm not talking about, oh, geez, just because Daniel Bryan wasn't there, should have been on the show, because Neville was really over the crowd and is a hell of a worker.
I don't think they trusted Neville on the pay-per-view card just yet, but watching tonight's show, I felt like in his match tonight, that was a big win for him.
Yeah.
I don't know. Not that Wade Barrett isn't a big win. It's a bigger win than Luke Harper, but I actually believe that tonight's spot on Raw actually is a bigger spot than Barrett on a pre-show, because most people probably didn't see it. So, you know, we're going to see how much they trust him over the next 24 hours if they let him win the tournament on the app. So we'll see. We'll see what goes on.
Yeah, but, and you know what else I think helped him a lot was he got a big push by, I mean, hey, you know what? Last night was the pay-per-view, and okay, there's a few people sitting around for an hour. Yeah, he's the first good guy coming out. He's going to get a pop. He got that same pop tonight. Only, right. I mean, it's a lot less hotter the Monday after, unless it's WrestleMania. It's not as hot of a crowd as the night before.
Like I said, if I never watched WWE and I watched all the matches in random order tonight, I would have said that guy, that little Jack guy, is got to be their champion. He's got to be the best guy they have. What else are you going to put on TV? I mean, if you didn't know any better, he was above and beyond anybody I saw tonight, by far.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, at WWE, you know what? They're not going to hotshot him to the championship, because I definitely don't think he's ready.
Kevin, why did TNA never sign Neville Pac? Like, why didn't they ever go after him?
I don't know.
I mean, it's unbelievable how good this guy is.
Yeah, didn't he wrestle for them or something in like
he's in Independence?
He might. I don't remember. He might have wrestled a one-off match, but most of his career was with Evolve and Dragon Gate USA.
Okay.
Yeah, and Dragon Gate's more tied into the Ring of Honor side of things, right?
Yes.
I mean, how do you miss on all? I mean, seriously, TNA missed on everybody. Like, why didn't they sign any of these guys? They were too busy getting WWE trash. All these guys were out there. All of these guys.
Yeah.
And now, I know people are probably laughing at me right now. I mean, I get why all you people went crazy. All you indie fans. Like, all the guys that you guys love, they're pretty damn good. You know, I mean, everybody I'm watching, they deliver. Every one of these guys delivers over and over again. So, you know, it's a different time. So, I mean, you don't have to sell me on Neville. I mean, he's great. But what I think's interesting, what I like better about him in WWE versus NXT, I really didn't like him in the mic, and I didn't really like that feud he had with Sami Zayn. I didn't really like the whole friendship, respect. I don't really like that type of angle. And I thought he was a little weak on the mic for sure. His accent's pretty thick. Just as a worker, off the page, man. Just off the page. But that's pretty much it, and that's another episode of Raw Reaction. I don't know, Kev or Vic, there's anything you guys want to add, but I think I'm good to go. Big Hick, thank you. Killer Kev, thank you. It's been great talking about wrestling. It certainly hasn't been work, but it's been good. I appreciate it, and we'll see you next week, folks. So for Big Hick, Big Dick, Killer Kev, and myself, the Angry Tensai, thank you for joining Raw Reaction, and we'll see you next week. Kev, hit the music.